Thank you. I hope you two over here aren't offended. I've got to go in just a minute, so I'm just going to ask Mr. Braun a few questions. You know, the administration strategy is like, I think, it makes common sense to cut off the flow of drug money to the insurgents to stop their destabilization. I think that this is going to be difficult because of the Afghan economy using cash trade and hawaladars to move value. They've got an elaborate system of the latter. And I don't know whether you agree with me. You heard me when I introduced my, or talked about the introduction of my anti-money laundering laws. But if this is true that they use these other methods, and the only methods maybe, are any programs focused on trade-based money laundering?
Yes, Senator. Let me just talk about financial investigations and financial operations very quickly. And as part of that, I think you'll have a clear sense of the kinds of money that we're talking about that are being generated by the trade. The DEA for the last about 5 years now has had a very aggressive financial investigative strategy that it's about as simple as it gets, but it is extremely effective. And the strategy is this: with every DEA investigation that is opened, there must be a financial aspect to that investigation. And what the agency and what the agents and analysts have been told to do, and they're doing quite well, Senator, are apply the same exact tradecraft that is used for following the drugs against the money. In other words, follow the money just like you follow the drugs. One major trafficker in Afghanistan that has been brought to justice in the United States. He's pending trial, so I've got to be a little bit careful here. But the DEA tracked over $500 million in cash that moved through this guy's hands and made its way into the UAE. We've got an office, or the DEA has an office in the UAE now, and they're working that investigation. One other case, and this is pretty amazing. One other case, just about a year ago, a major trafficker's compound was hit in Nangarhar province by the DEA and Counternarcotics Police of Afghanistan. We found the treasure trove, the gold mine, if you will. We found his ledgers. And his ledgers, and this guy is strongly affiliated with the Taliban. In fact, there's growing evidence that he is a member of the Taliban. $169 million in cash moved through his hands and books in one 10-month period for the sale of 81 metric tons of heroin and morphine. So the kinds of money that are generated by the trade is a never-ending funding stream to the Taliban's war chest. And I would agree with you wholeheartedly. We've got to do a better job at following the narco dollars that are flowing out of that country, and we've got to find out where that money's going. But we've got some enormous challenges, Senator. In the UAE, the Emiratis have done a great job with respect to enacting money laundering legislation. Yet they only have a handful. I believe when I left about a year ago, they only had 2 investigators that were responsible for, internally, 2 federal investigators that were responsible for financial investigations. And so it's very difficult oftentimes to follow that money because we have to rely on our host nation counterparts to help us find out exactly where it's going.
Are we getting cooperation from other countries in the area or any place where maybe it would help?
Yes, sir, we are. We are getting a great deal of help and assistance. And if I could, there's a money aspect to all of this, but the DEA is one other point that needs to be made. We can't be Afghan-centric. We can't be Afghan-centric here. If we are, we're doomed to failure. So the DEA has a broad regional presence in that part of the world. We're working very closely with our foreign counterparts to not only go after the most notorious traffickers that are in Afghanistan, but also those that are around the country. And I was thinking about just some of these folks to give you some examples of some names, actually, of major traffickers from the region outside of Afghanistan that have been brought to justice. These are all major traffickers. Again, a guy by the name of Shabazz Khan, who was arrested in Dubai at the request of DEA. He was tried in the UAE, and he received 2 life sentences. A guy by the name of Khan Mohammed Khan was arrested by our Turkish counterparts at the request of DEA and our Afghan counterparts, and I believe he's pending trial. Hussein Rikabadi, this guy was arrested in Romania. He was a high-level Iranian broker for heroin, and Senator, you mentioned that about 50% of this stuff moves through Iran. So the agency's got a very solid regional strategy and actually global strategy to deal with this.
And then just any short answer you have for this, what's the biggest impediment to following the drug money and stopping the flow of illicit money, if you had to name 1 or 2 things?
One of the most significant challenges is the Hawala system of doing business in that part of the world. It's just, things just seem to, go into a black hole. You can follow it so far, and then it goes. The way you break the code on that, quite honestly, there have got to be, we've got to engage in, and I'm not talking about just DEA, I'm talking about the intelligence community, federal law enforcement, and even our counterparts. We've got to do better at penetrating that financial network through very complex, extraordinarily dangerous undercover operations. We've got to be able to recruit operatives, and we've got to get them in the right places to peel back that onion and find out exactly how it works. Because I'm telling you what, Senator, 8 years later, we still don't really know how it's working.
Okay, thank you.